Morning world, it's Thursday the 5th of May, Friday the 5th of May 2023. It is astronomical and astrological Beltane today, and we have a Beltane eclipse. Beltane has been celebrated since time immemorial. It's been documented as having been celebrated pre-Christianity in Ireland, Scotland, Wales and England, and that's just as far as my local culture goes. It's always been seen as a time where you light fires, where you erect a maypole and dance around it, which is obviously to do with fertility rites. At the Beltane fires, the fires would be lit, and often those fires would then continue throughout the year, never letting the fire go out until the next Beltane, or at least until Samhain, 6 months later. During the Beltane fires, there's a number of rituals that would take place. The youngest of the young strong men and the young strong women would dance around the fires first, followed by the older men and women, and then the ancient men and women. But the younger men and women would then jump the fires, and the higher the fire, the higher they had to jump. And those who could jump the highest would then be the first to go off, procreate, and 9 months later, at Imbolc at the start of February, just as the ice and the winter is receding, the babies would be born, giving them 9 months to grow before the next winter comes along. This is why Beltane is seen as a fertility time, a time of fertility ritual. But it's not just about that. It's also connected with its opposite time, Samhain, which happens around the start of November as we go into the dark. And there's a lot of connection with otherworld entities here. A lot of people in ancient times, at least, and still in some areas today, once the Beltane fire has died down, they would daub themselves with the ash from the fire. And there is still a strong connection that says you do not light your fire on Beltane Day until you see the smoke from someone else's house. There's a lot of old practices and researches associated with Beltane, many of which have been discontinued in the modern age, but been re-established in recent times with a kind of neo-pagan revival, particularly in areas of Britain such as Edinburgh and Hampshire, where there's a lot of Beltane festivals. But it is the start of summer. It's associated with the flowering of the trees. It's associated with the first crops growing. It's associated with the new food coming in. Particularly, incidentally, the yellow crops, whether it be the dandelions, the gorse, and particularly the hawthorn. Hawthorn is an incredibly powerful tree in a number of different ways. It's one of the oldest trees in British mythology. The reason I'm going on about Beltane is that most almanacs would say, well, Beltane is May the 1st. But that is a convenient Christian imposition with the calendar as existed in the last 500 years. Beltane is actually the halfway point between the Northern Hemisphere spring equinox and the summer solstice. It is when the sun is at 15 degrees 0 of Taurus. Astronomical Beltane will occur tonight, UK time, at 18 to 19 minutes past 7 in the evening. Just before that, at 6:34 UK time PM, there is a near total eclipse of the moon. This will take place at 14 degrees 58 Scorpio, with the sun at 14 degrees 58 Taurus, exactly on the Beltane and the Samhain points. In astronomical and astrological lore, Lore, not Law, Beltane is always celebrated at the midpoint between equinox and solstice, or at the nearest full moon to that time. It just so happens that this year, those two events are exactly synchronous, or synchronous to within 45 minutes of time, and you don't get any closer than that. I find it fascinating that there's a full moon eclipse in Scorpio on the Samhain point at the moment of Beltane, just before the coronation and the crowning of a king. And sticking with the old look at the laws and customs of Britain, thanks to one or two of my subscribers who have done some excellent research, and you know who you are, I've been exploring the idea of the Witten. The Witten is the council of, well, depending which version you read, the wise men, the wise women, or the nobles, or the elite, or the aristocracy. Certainly the roots of the Witten, the wise council, go back to Germanic times, at least as far back as 300-400 AD. The earliest recorded record of the Witten goes back to 600 AD in Britain, but the records of those times talk of decisions that were made by Wittens before. The Wittens were the council of the Earls, the Eorls, which became the Earls, the barons, the lords, and then in later times also the bishops, the archbishops, the priestesses, the people of power in the land. And they became the council of the wise, and they would come together particularly to anoint or to appoint the king. Every king in British history in ancient times was appointed by the Witten. And we know this from the days of Otho of Mercia, or Alfred the Great, Athelstan, Adred, Edgar, Athelred the Unready, Canute. They were all appointed by the Witten. And over decades, centuries, the Witten gradually morphed into the wise councils of the older generation, the lords, the nobles, which became the aristocracy. And in every coronation in British history, the Witten, or the Witenagemot to be precise, the landowners, the nobles, they would attend the coronation of the king and witness the anointing of the king with the sacred oils. For the first time ever in British history, this will not happen at this coronation. The nobles have not been invited to the coronation. They've not been excluded, but they've not been invited. In all past coronations, the nobles would pay homage to the king. They would bow down before him, or queen. This is not happening this time. There's only one noble going to bow down before the king and pledge their allegiance, and that is the king's son. So a number of people would say that this is not being done the way it's always been done before, and this is part of the current king's attempt to modernise the rituals of the aristocracy today. And I fully understand that, and to an extent support it. But when it comes to the magic of the land, whether it be associated with Beltane, or whether it be associated with certain traditions that go back at least 1,500 years, there is a case for saying, well, if it's working, don't fix it. And I suspect that having an eclipse at the moment of Beltane, less than 24 hours before a coronation, where old ancient rituals are not being observed, is rocking the apple cart one state too far. And I suggest that out of this is going to come a sense of difference, possibly chaos, in the British aristocratic system that, well, the anarchist in me is going, okay, it's about time it got shaken up. And the traditionalist in me is going, oh, I'm not sure about this. there's going to be some interesting outcomes over the coming few years. And the nature of the Constitution of Britain is changing forever. But this is British. I'm aware that many of you don't really care about what's happening in Britain. You're concerned with your own countries and your own things. But it is Beltane, and that is global. It is the midpoint between solstice and equinox. It is time to light a fire, or at least a candle. It is time to invoke and invite your own relationship with however you see the other world as being. And when I'm talking about the other world, I am not talking about, higher dimensions, your relationship with spirit, your relationship with the divine. Although there's an essence of that. I am talking about other dimensions of existence that are also resident on this earth, that are parallel to us, but outside of our range of perception. Beyond that, I'm not going to go. I do expect the first crop circle quite soon. On that note, I wish you all a happy Beltane, and don't forget to light a candle around about 20 minutes past 7 UK time tonight. Catch you later, world. Bye.